Hello and welcome to Screams from the Center, where I hope to provide you with information on topics I find interesting and give my perspective on them. On this episode, Gary Johnson will not become President of the United States. So, Gary Johnson's the Libertarian candidate for President of the United States. He's a former governor of New Mexico, I believe it was. And he's, in my opinion, a bit of a joke. Yeah, he was the governor of New Mexico. So he's a bit of a joke. So first off, I have a thing about the Libertarian Party. I am an advocate for the truth, so I have a hard time not telling the truth about libertarians. The Libertarian Party is based on a movement that grew out of corporate lobbyists back in the 1940s. It's basically a party that is for the economically advantaged. It's for corporatists. It's for people who want to avoid taxes. It's not just Republicans who want to smoke weed and get laid. That's what a lot of people think the Libertarian Party is. They think that it's a party about freedom, but I recommend you look up this story called like Joe Republican and Joe Libertarian, because it talks about how the libertarian philosophy would look in the United States. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm going to read some of the stuff off of their platform. The problem with the libertarians is that they believe in a kind of statism. Gary Johnson may say that he's for legalization of marijuana and that he's for the legalization or at least decriminalization of prostitution and marijuana and many other drugs. But the fact of the matter is he actually prefers the state doing that. So if the state wants to execute you for marijuana, then the Libertarian Party is A-OK. So before you sit there and go, hey, Gary Johnson's the person for me because he wants everything to be free and open, let's look at some of the things that the Libertarian Party stands for. Now, I'm going to start off with the Libertarian Platform from 1980. This is the platform that David Koch ran as vice president on. So here's some of the highlights. We urge the repeal of federal campaign finance laws, and it immediately asks for the abolition of the despotic FCC or FEC program. So basically what they want to do is they want to allow rich people to buy politicians. I mean, that's the very definition of oligarchy. So rich people can buy politicians, and your voice doesn't get heard unless you happen to agree with the rich people. We favor the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid. So, if you get sick, screw you, you're hosed. You're just not going to get any kind of treatment. The Libertarians don't care. We urge the repeal of the fraudulent, bankrupt, and increasingly oppressive Social Security system. First of all, the Social Security system is self-funded. It is prohibited by law to increase the federal debt or the national debt. It's a system, it's basically an insurance program, so it's not even an entitlement program. You pay into the system and with the promise that you will get the same kind of benefits when you need to collect from the system. We propose the abolition of the governmental postal system. Now, this is one thing that's actually in the Constitution. The post office is in the Constitution, and the Libertarian Party wants to get rid of the Postal Service. Basically, what this all boils down to, and I'll keep going here, I'm just caveating here, if a rich billionaire can make a buck off of it, then libertarians want to privatize it. We support the eventual repeal of all taxation, because who needs money to run a government? We don't. As an interim measure, all criminal civil sanctions against tax evasion should be terminated immediately. We support the repeal of all laws which impede the ability of any person to find employment, such as minimum wage laws. Because, if someone has a glut of employees, if there's a surplus of labor, then, let's pay people $2 an hour. If they can't live, well, fuck you. Who cares? We advocate the complete separation of education and state. Government schools led to the indoctrination of children and interfere with the free choice of individuals. Government ownership, operation, regulation, and subsidy of schools and colleges should be ended. Okay, so what this means is no more public schools, no more assistance in college, no more financial aid, none of that kind of stuff. If you can't secure the loans based on your own personal income, which I don't know how a college student does that, but if you can't secure a loan for school, or, let's not even get into college. If your parents can't afford to send you to elementary school, oh well, I guess you can go work on the collective farm. We condemn compulsory education laws. We call for the immediate repeal of such laws. I'm not sure what that means. We support the abolition of the Environmental Protection Agency because we liked it when rivers caught on fire and rich people could dump toxins in water supplies and not give a crap and keep that money for themselves. We support the abolition of the Department of Energy because we don't know, as libertarians, what the Department of Energy does. It regulates nuclear power, nuclear missiles, nuclear energy, that sort of thing. We oppose laws that require individuals to buy or use so-called self-protection, such as safety belts, airbags, and crash helmets. Because, yes, we need more deaths on the road. Because before all of those things were more or less mandated by the government, death rates skyrocketed. You should be able to fucking kill yourself stupidly if you want. We advocate the abolition of the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, because, being able to take your chicken, go down to the store, buy a chicken, cook it in your oven, and then eat it without getting salmonella, well, that's for losers. Because the FDA is a governmental agency, and we oppose the government, and we oppose any kind of safety regulations. So basically, what a lot of these abolitions do, what a lot of the regulation abolition does is the libertarian philosophy is that's what courts are for. So basically, if mom gets poisoned by some sort of, by the chicken she ate and she dies, it's my responsibility to sue them and collect money from them if I can. Never mind the small problem that libertarians forget, that money buys justice. So those companies which have lots of money right now to start with and going to have even more money then can fight me. And it's not like I can get the word out. I mean, I can go on YouTube, but, without regulations, maybe YouTube will, maybe let's say Tyson Chicken poisoned my mother. Without those regulations, if I go to sue, I can't get the word out. Maybe I get defeated in court because I didn't have the money to sue them and take on a big multinational corporation. So then I try to go to YouTube on the internet and say, you shouldn't buy Tyson Chicken. They poisoned my mother and killed her. Oh, but maybe Tyson Chicken decides to pay YouTube a little extra to make sure that anybody who puts out a video with a negative response about Tyson Chicken gets blocked, banned, or not uploaded. So your video is relegated to the wastelands. That's the system that they want. Okay, they also oppose all government welfare, relief projects, and aid to the poor programs, because fuck the poor. If you can't make enough money, if you're incapable of working, if there's any kind of problem, the best way for you to deal with things is to just die. That way, you open up the job market, and people who are capable of working, who haven't been poisoned yet, will get to go to work. Oh, but if you do get sick, be sure to be careful about the drugs, because without an FDA, you're probably going to get drugs that don't have the kind of efficacy that we enjoy today. They want to repeal the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, because who doesn't like getting injured at work? I mean, if you lose a finger or something like that, you can sue them and hope that you win. And again, go to YouTube, but your company may have paid off YouTube to block your video so that you can never get the word out about how they treat their employees. Because left alone, companies will always do the right thing. I mean, the 1890s was called the Gilded Age for a reason. Oh, wait, it was called the Gilded Age as in gilded cages. Because labor was oppressive, management was oppressive, and people were getting killed. Why have a government tell you that you need a fire exit door? Just paint a door on there so that your employees don't have a fit about there not being a fire exit. And if there happens to be a fire, I mean, what are the chances of that? Triangle Waistcoat Company, 1900s. Then, you're going to be dead anyway. So who cares? Who cares about not having an exit? There doesn't need to be a law for that sort of thing. Let's see, the abolition of the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Because, if someone screws you on your credit card, your bank, or something like that, that's what the courts are for. Because, again, the courts always rule in favor of the small guy. Now, of course, that's the 1980 platform. They have kind of softened that, but they still call for the abolition of every program that I've outlined. So when you think Gary Johnson is A-OK because he wants to legalize pot and prostitution, just remember that if you lived in libertarian world, you would have to pay a toll for every road you drive down. You would have to pay for, you would have to pay out of pocket. I mean, it's not just you pay taxes at the end of the year and that pays for stuff. You actually would have to pay for, and there's no reason to regulate prices. There's no control over prices. So, if I'm going to be doing a video on competition, when is competition good? When's it not? And I'm going to be getting into that type of that type of discussion. So that's a background, a little taste of what the libertarians are like. So this is the kind of stuff that Gary Johnson's running for. He doesn't say that in interviews, and of course the corporate media doesn't actually ask him questions about this kind of oppressive platform. They also don't ask him the question about, when he talks about deregulating marijuana and deregulating or decriminalizing marijuana and prostitution, that kind of stuff. They don't ask him, do you mean, throw it to the states, or do you mean that federally it's legal? Because if he was being honest, he would have to answer that if a state wanted the death penalty for smoking a joint, well, then that's the way it goes. Then you live in a state and you can choose to move if they do that. So Gary Johnson specifically, this is the guy who didn't know what Aleppo was. Now, okay, to be honest, I could give a fuck about the whole Aleppo question, because the press oftentimes asks stupid questions like this. Now, I'm not saying that Aleppo's not important. I'm just saying that before this Gary Johnson incident, I'm pretty sure that almost everybody who watches this video from here to eternity, even after it's been explained, will not know what the fuck Aleppo is. So don't cry me a river that Gary Johnson didn't know about that. Now, what I do find fault in is his lack of knowledge about everything. Aleppo is just the beginning of it. And yeah, he could have studied up on it. Hey, Syria, I wonder what's going on there. They got this thing Aleppo where ISIS is fighting Syrian forces and U.S. forces and such. Maybe I should know what that is. Now, it's the idea that he couldn't name a leader. He couldn't name a leader. I mean, you don't have to sit there. The question was, who do you look up to most as a world leader? and he couldn't name anybody. And in fact, he sat there and said, "Oop, I guess I'm having an Aleppo moment." The thing that he coined he mocked himself not being able to answer another question. This was that second question, the thing about what leader do you respect, that's the Sarah Palin, what magazines and newspapers do you read? Can you name one? Can you name one, Gary Johnson? This is a guy who's running for president of the United States, and he can't even pretend. I mean, shit, just go with Mao Zedong. Yes, I like him. He was a leader, right? You know, make up something. Come on. Margaret Thatcher. You could come up with someone. There's a conservative out there that's waiting to be loved by you. Theresa May. Hey, there's an idea, and at least she's the actual leader of the UK right now. So he could have done anything. So, I'm just reading this stuff and it's ridiculous. And he's polling at 10%. If you're a Bernie Sanders supporter and you are for Gary Johnson because you hate that bitch Hillary Clinton, well, I've got to tell you something. You're an idiot, and never call yourself a Bernie-crat or a Bernie supporter if you're going to hitch on to this clown car, Gary Johnson, because he is absolutely ridiculous, and he's against everything that Bernie Sanders stands for. He may agree on the outcome of something, like military non-interventionalism. Certainly Bernie Sanders and Gary Johnson can agree that they don't want to be in useless wars, but how you get there does count. Just because he doesn't want to spend any money and he wants to be an isolationist doesn't mean that military interventionalism because of that is a good thing. No, we are part of the world. We have to interact with the world. Now, we shouldn't be the cops or the thugs on the street, but we shouldn't ignore the fact that sometimes we do have to use the military. Sometimes you have to spend money as a government. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, but sometimes you have to spend money. So, I can't appeal more. I mean, this is worse than Jill Stein, because at least Jill Stein, and you can go back to my video about Jill Stein not being president. At least with Jill Stein, she supports virtually identically the positions of Bernie Sanders. And I've stated why I think that she is a problem and she's not going to be president. But, do you like money in politics? Do you like it when someone like the Koch brothers can spend nearly $1 billion to rig elections to buy your opinion? Well, Gary Johnson supports Citizens United and Buckley versus Vallejo, the two decisions of the Supreme Court which allowed politicians to be bought and sold. Because of those two decisions, you the viewer, unless you're making more than $1 million a year, you the viewer are statistical noise in the idea of your opinions mattering to government officials, to government elected officials. And Gary Johnson is for that on steroids. So I don't know how much more I could plead to Bernie Sanders supporters to wake the fuck up and not go with this clown. This guy is a joke. If he wore the makeup and stood at the edge of a forest, he'd be on the news for something productive. Come here, kids, here's some candy. But Gary Johnson is, fortunately, even with the idiotic supporters he has, not going to be president of the United States. I hate being so blunt, but I'm really kind of getting tired of the idea that, oh, we hate Hillary Clinton. Maybe we'll vote for Gary Johnson. Because if some fucktard like you does actually cause Hillary to lose, and we get Donald Trump because you wanted to stand on principle and have this dweeb be president when you knew he couldn't, it's your fault. It's your fault. So, thank you for joining me in this episode of Screams from the Center. Please leave comments below on how I can improve. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. My blog is at screamsfromthecenter.wordpress.com. I'm on Twitter at ScreamsFTCenter, on Facebook at Screams from the Center, and here on YouTube, which you already know. Thank you, and have a wonderfully productive election.